Hi everybody, it's Nikki here and welcome to a bookish video. So today's video is my February reading wrap up where I talk about all the books that I read in the month of February. Now, as like in January or for January's reading wrap up, I am going to do my stats at the end because the way that I'm taking my statistics this year may be spoilery for the books that I'm going to be talking about. So I will do the statistics at the end of the video. So let's get started on straight into the books that I read. Okay, so the first two books that I'm going to talk about are a duology, and that is The Merciful Crow and The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen. Now, technically, The Faithless Hawk was the only book that was on my TBR. The Merciful Crow, was not. The Faithless Hawk was my star book, if I remember rightly. And what happened was, as I started to read the Faithless Hawk, I realised there was a couple of things from The Merciful Crow that I didn't quite remember. So I picked up The Merciful Crow, read that, and then moved on to The Faithless Hawk. And I'm really glad that I did, because these books are really quick reads anyway for me. I got through both of these pretty fast, so it didn't put me too far behind on my TBR for February. Also as well is I had a very small TBR, so I was able to add a couple of extra books in that weren't originally on my TBR because I had that room to do so. So I'm really glad that I read both of these again because I absolutely loved this duology. So I gave The Merciful Crow 4 and I gave The Faithless Hawk 5 stars. So my notes for The Merciful Crow say, strong-willed female character, not perfect. Learning about treating others with respect, interesting characters, magic and plot. For The Faithless Hawk, my notes were plot twist, political intrigue, betrayal and loyalty. A new favourite duology I will happily read again. So yes. These are going on my favourites bookshelf in my bedroom that I bought during the Polathon vlog that is up on my channel. I will see if I can link it for you in the description box below if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, I bought a brand new little bookshelf that goes in my bedroom now, and these are going on that shelf as new favourites. I absolutely love this. I will say that I enjoyed book 2 better because I gave that 5 stars and I only gave Merciful Crow 4 stars, but I do really enjoy this duology. And yeah, they will both be going on my new shelf. The next book I read was for the Polathon, so I'm not going to talk too much about this because you will have heard a lot of my thoughts in that Polathon vlog. But The Good Bear by Sarah Lean, illustrated by Fiona Woodcock, I gave this 3 stars. And my notes say, estranged parent and child tension, automatic dislike of the new family, learning about the true Christmas spirit and how differently we all celebrate. Yeah, this book really touched on the fact that sometimes we have an idea in our head of how we want to celebrate Christmas. And when we have new members coming into our family, or we're staying somewhere different to what we would normally stay, and having to embrace and accept other people's traditions. I know in my family that Christmas Day is started with breakfast and opening our stockings. That's how we start Christmas morning. And then once everybody's finished breakfast and we've had a bit of a chill, then we will start on presents. We open them one at a time so that everybody is watching one person while they're opening their present. And then we take it in turns to open presents. Recently, since me and my husband are home on our own now because my daughter has left the nest and got her own home. Me and my husband have been using games to help us prolong the time of opening presents. So we've used quizzes, we've used shooting games, we've used all sorts of different ways that, you know, you have to get a question right before you can open a present. And we've played charades before, we've played Picto charades. We've played a numerous amount of games to help prolong that time period of opening presents, because I don't know about you, but when you're an adult, you don't get a lot. And so to make it last a little bit longer, at least until dinner time, we use games in order to do that. So it can take us quite a few hours just to open the couple of presents that we have beneath the tree. So yeah, that's how we celebrate Christmas. And this book was just a really beautiful way of saying everybody is different, and let's respect that, let's embrace that, and let's learn to work together. So yeah, all with the story of this beautiful bear being saved from being hunted by the people in the village. So yeah, I really like this. The artwork in it as well was beautiful, but I do talk about this more in my Polathon vlog. The next book was also in the Polathon vlog, which is the Polar Bear Explorers Club by Alex Bell. The artwork on this is absolutely stunning. I gave this 4 stars, and my notes say great friendships, good character arcs, cliffhanger ending, interesting foes. Yes, the ending to this was really, really interesting. Has definitely made me want to go on and buy books 2 and 3. And yeah, I really liked some of the foes that they came across in their journey through the polar regions. I thought it was really interesting. There was one part in this book that I kind of pumped the air and cheered a little bit for, in that in this story you have Stella Starflake, who was found as a young baby by her father, who's not actually her father, but he has taken her in and cared for her and raised her. And his sister, so now her aunt, is determined to take Stella and put her into a finishing school for young ladies, because she thinks that Stella is a little uncouth for a young girl. And her auntie is basically telling her dad, these young ladies, they walk around balancing books on their head for hours, you know, obviously to correct their posture. And her dad literally turns around and says, wouldn't it be better if they just read them? And I just, yes. Yes. But yeah, I love the messages in this book. I love the characters. I loved everything. So yeah, it got 4 stars. The next book I read was actually an ebook, and that was Song of the Forever Rains by E.J. Mellows. And my notes for this say, great sisterly bond, adorable romance, trigger warnings for physical abuse and torture. Both protagonists have scars or injuries. Great plot. Yes, I really, really enjoyed this. It was dark from the very beginning. So I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. And I'm reading the second book this month in March. So that goes to show you how much I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, I'm even contemplating buying a hard copy of this because it's only about £6 on Amazon. So I thought, I might purchase that. I think as well, it might be an indie published book, so it would help somebody out. So me purchasing it. The next book I read was my buddy read with Charlotte, and we moved on to the second book in the what was the first book called? Graceling series. I was thrown by this at first because it doesn't follow the same storyline as the first one. And I was like, is this a different story? Like, is each book a different story? I gave this 4 stars. And my notes on this say, oh, bear with me. I'm going to turn over the page on my notebook. Apart from the prologue, most of the story has no connection to the first book. The ending felt rushed, maybe ran out of the word count. Fire's magic interesting, but easily solved a lot of problems. Yes, that's pretty much sums it up. It felt like the first 3/4 of this was like a lot of world building, a lot of character building, a lot of work was going into it. And then it felt like the author was like, oh, how do I finish this? And quickly finished it. Like, everything happened in the last 50 pages or so. I am kind of happy that this author wasn't afraid to kill off a couple of characters that we loved. Or not loved, but liked. I like that. And I do like the magic that our main character Fire had. But yeah, it did solve a lot of problems. Like, oh, because she has this power to read minds, control minds, she was able to see if there was anybody outside in the corridor before they left the room. You know, it was just like, really? But I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it as a whole, but I didn't see how it was going to connect to the first book until the very end. And then I was like, right, okay, that's fine. So yeah, we are supposed to be reading Bitter Blue this month, but because Bookgammon was just a little bit mean to me, 24 books, mean to me, on my TBR, Charlotte has said to me, if you want to leave Bitter Blue till next month, we can. So yeah, we probably won't read Bitter Blue until April now, but that's okay, it's fine. Bookgammon was just too mean to me. Okay, there was a DNF in February, and that was my Waterstones book club pick. And I attend my local Waterstones book club, and the book that was picked for February was The North Water. And I did not purchase this book because I found it on Scribd, so I was able to listen to the audiobook. I listened to the first chapter and went, yep, no. My notes say trigger warnings for child rape, cruelty, and then nope, and nope some more. That's literally what I wrote. Nope, and nope some more. Because this book, from the very first line, told me it was not going to be a pleasant experience. This book, from the very first line, let you know that this was going to be dark, dirty, that's the way I would describe this book, disgusting, vile, violent, cruel, just lots of no's in my reading, because I read to escape, and I read to escape the sort of, not the cruelties of the big wide world out there, but the reality of the big wide world out there. Everyone knows what's currently going on in the world, and that depresses me. That really makes me not very well mentally, and so I read to escape. If that means that the only books I ever read are fluffy fantasies about elves and orcs and goblins and fairies and stuff like that, then so be it. I am not about reading things that upset me or make me feel uncomfortable or make me feel disgusted and like, I want to be sick, basically. I don't want to read about child abuse. I don't want to read about animal abuse, which I hear from, which I read in some of the reviews for The Northwater. This book actually does contain, just luckily I didn't get that far. It was a no, no, no from me. These books are loved by some people, and that doesn't have to make a comment about the type of person that they are to enjoy these types of books. But they're not mine. I'm not going to jeopardize my mental health to read a book that upsets me. I have read hard-hitting books in the past. I read The Dark Vanessa, or My Dark Vanessa, but I was prepared to go into that. I did my research, I listened to people's reviews, I read people's reviews, I read the trigger warnings, I really properly researched my Dark Vanessa before I purchased it, and then I left it on my shelves until I was ready mentally to face it, and that I was in a good place mentally to be able to read it. And when I was halfway through and I could feel myself dropping, I could feel my anxiety and depression starting to drop, I put it down and I left it for 6 months, and then I picked it back up when I was in a stronger place again. I can't do that with a book club pick because we have 1 month to read it. That's the whole point of a book club. So it does sort of, like, I will veto anything that is hard hitting in a book club pick from now on, because I need time to prepare for those types of books. I'm not saying I'll never read those types of books, because there are 1 or 2 that I am interested in. But I need to be mentally prepared and have the time to put it down and pick it back up again when I feel strong enough. And yeah, The Northwater by, I'll put the name of the author on the screen. I just wasn't going to waste my time reading it. So yeah, that was that one. Anybody else like that? Just, if it's hard hitting, you're just like, yep, nope. If that means I just read fluffy fantasy and fantasy romance, then so be it. It's the reason why I don't read a lot of contemporaries and I don't read a lot of domestic thrillers, because I just can't do with real life. I read to escape, and I'm not escaping if I'm reading about real life. Okay, so the next book, this made up for The Northwater, and that is Stuart Turton's The Devil and the Dark Water. This, I loved it. Oh, I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. My notes say Sherlock Holmes at sea, although it's actually Watson who solves the crime. A very exciting whodunit. Loved it. Oh. I am realising that if a book is set at sea, I'm more than likely going to enjoy it. I don't know what it is about books set on ships at sea with pirates and crew, and I mean, this doesn't have pirates in it, but it definitely has that kind of, like, you know, the crew is kind of almost piratey. I love this. It is a historical sort of story, but as with Stuart Turton's other book, The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, there's a little bit of a twist into what you think is actually happening. I could not figure this one out. I had all these theories, all these hypotheses, and what was actually revealed was like, oh my god, of course, that makes sense. Oh no. I cannot say enough how much I love this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The beautiful sprayed edges as well from this Waterstone special edition. I am so glad I paid the money for this beautiful edition of this amazing book because I absolutely loved it. A good potential for book of the year, shall we say. I loved it that much. And this is kind of one of those whodunits that I could definitely reread again, because even though I know who done it in the end, I just want to see, like, reread it to see all those bits that I know were clues. I loved it. I loved it. What more can I say? And then that was the end of my actual TBR. So then I was allowed to mood read for a bit. So one of the books that I mood read, should I say, was Assassination Classroom, book number 3. I gave this one 3 stars. I enjoy this manga. It's very interesting. Always, like, I know I shouldn't compare them, but when I look at this manga and then I look at Death Note, I love Death Note more, and that's why these are coming up 3 stars quite often. Oh, did I not make... Oh, how shocking. I didn't make any notes on this. What went wrong? Basically, this one was about... What happened in this one? See, they all start to meld together. I can't remember. But, oh, that was it. They went on a trip. And during this trip, the students are still trying to assassinate our sensei. What do they call him? The alien that is threatening to blow up the earth. But he is... Koro Sensei, that's his name, and he looks a bit like an octopus, like this creature here. But while they're trying to assassinate him, this class of 3E misfit children, he is teaching them. But he's not just teaching them for school things, he's teaching them life lessons and respect and understanding and honour. There is a part in here where you thought someone was going to be very close to assassinating Koro Sensei, and you were kind of like, if I'd have been reading these as they were coming out, I would have been very worried that this was the last book. But because I know that I have at least 11 editions, like 11 volumes on my shelves, and I know there's a lot more than that, my anxiety about this this moment where his life was in danger was reduced a little, because I knew he would make it. But if I'd have read them, as I say, when they were being released, I would have been a bit worried that this would have been the end of the series. But yeah, I quite enjoy it. Easy to follow, easy to read, quick reads, and yeah, 3 stars. And the last book that I read in February, I did it, she done. This has been my bomb book for a couple of months now. It is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, the sequel to Strange the Dreamer. It was my bomb book for January and February, and when I got to the end of the February and I'd finished all my TBR and I had room to mood read, I knew I wanted to pick this up. No longer was this book going to sit on my shelves haunting me, because it's a duology. And I read Strange the Dreamer in 2020, I want to say. I think it was 2020. Why has it taken me over a year to read the second book? I don't understand it. So I did it. I did it. She done. She finished. I gave Muse of Nightmares 4 4 stars, and my notes say more world building, learning more about the history of the people, great character arcs. Yeah, there was a massive event that happens at the end of Strange the Dreamer, which I did remember despite the time difference, and I wasn't sure how we were going to continue with the story. And well, the story continued for quite a lot of pages, and I did like it, but I don't know. This book relies heavily on ghosts, and of all the creatures that I read about, fairies, elves, goblins, dragons, wizards, witches, you name it, you know, I read books about it. Ghosts are something that I don't know what it is about them, but I can't connect to a story that has ghosts in it. So I did enjoy this one, but not as much as Strange the Dreamer. I felt like Strange the Dreamer, the first book, was a lot stronger. The Laini Taylor's writing is very beautiful. It's like, her writing is like describing a beautiful painting, and you can really see the world that she is talking about, that she's writing about. You can see what she's creating in your mind, and I love that about her writing. I can't wait to read some of her other books. I do have her Daughter of the Smoke and Bone books. I think I have the first 2 books in that trilogy, so I'll hopefully get onto those very soon. But yeah, I don't know, it was a ghost thing in here that kind of threw me off just a little, you know. But I did like how this book opened up and explained more about the history of the gods in this book that we got to know about in the first book. This book was kind of like explaining the history, the background of what was happening, and I liked that. I did like that. Will I reread this duology again? Will this duology be going on to my favourite shelves? No. No, I don't think it's a favourite duology of mine. I will probably keep the books. What I might do is actually replace this hardback edition, even though it is beautiful. I might replace this hardback edition with the paperback, because I have Strange the Dreamer in paperback and Muse of Nightmares in the hardback edition, but it is easier to get the paperback of Muse of Nightmares than it is to get the hardback of Strange the Dreamer, because I'm not paying those extortionate prices for the beautiful moth covered hardback. Yeah, I will keep it on my shelves, but it's not a favourite duology of mine. Maybe on a reread, it might be. But I don't have any plans to reread it again anytime soon. So yeah, that was that one. So those were all the books that I read in February. So let's get to the statistics. By the way, there was a non-fiction book that I had on my TBR for February, which was Athelstan, which was a non-fiction book about the first king of England, of Great Britain. It's a history book from by Penguin. I did start that in February, and I am halfway through it, but because I'm actually annotating it, studying it, because I love history and the kings and queens of England are my jam, shall we say. I'm taking it slowly with that one, and I am reading a couple of pages a night, really studying it, really like researching it, going off and finding other bits and pieces. If there's a battle mentioned, I'm looking it up online or trying to find other books about it. And so although it was less than 100 pages, it's taken me ages to read, because I'm not just reading the book as it is, I'm studying it, I'm annotating it, I'm making notes on it, I'm researching things that it mentions. So there was another book on my TBR and I am still currently reading it, but it's probably not going to be finished. I don't even know if it's going to be finished in March. It might be, I don't know. I still have about 30-40 pages left of it. So it might get finished in March, it might get finished in April, but I'm studying it slowly. So yeah, there was that as well. If you're thinking, hang on a minute, wasn't there a non-fiction book on your TBR, Nicola? There was. Okay, there may be a camera change angle and I may look slightly different, but that is because it is 2 days later. My camera battery died and I put it onto charge, went off to do a few things, forgot about it, went to bed that night and went, oh, I forgot to finish filming the video. And then yesterday, it was just a nope day with my mental health, so I took a self-care day. And so here we are 2 days later, about to finish the video with the statistics. So this is my book journal, my reading journal. So let's get on to the stats. So I read a total of 9 books in February. One thing I discovered in February was I'm not a mood reader. I like a big TBR so that I can pick and choose from that big TBR what I want to read. And if I don't get to the whole TBR, like for March I have 24 books, there's absolutely no way I'm going to read 24 books in 1 month, but I've got 24 books to pick from, and that's a lot easier than having to just look at these shelves and go, what do I read? I mean, maybe that's why people want a smaller, like, unread TBR number, because it's easier to pick what to read. But because I have a TBR game that helps me to pick what I want to read, or what I'm going to be reading, whether I want to or not, that kind of allows me to have a bigger unread TBR. Huh, that's a thought. But yeah, I'm definitely not a mood reader, because when I had a small TBR, such as I had 3 books on my Bookgammon TBR, I had 3 books on my Polathon TBR, I had a buddy read with Charlotte, and I had whatever book was picked for the Waterstones book club. So that was 8 books on my TBR, and it just wasn't enough for me to have a choice of what to read. And so I was faced with having to look at my shelves and go, what can I read? And I was overwhelmed, and so I did anything but read. So yeah, 9 books might sound a lot to some people, but for me, that's a very small amount of books for me to read in a month. The physical pages I read was 3,035. The ebook pages I read was 423. So yeah, very, very happy with that. The audiobook hours, for the first time, I believe, in quite a while, I listened to 0 hours of audiobooks. None that were borrowed and none that I own the physical copy of. Nothing. I listened to 0 audiobooks, which is different for me because I always have an audiobook. I like to have at least one on the go all the time. So not all the time, I don't have an audiobook playing 24/7, but you know, I like to have an audiobook to read alongside a physical book kind of thing. And I didn't do that in February. And again, I wonder if that might have something to do with the total number of books that I read, because I didn't listen to any audiobooks. So that's interesting. My star ratings for the month, I gave 2 books 5 stars, 5 books, 4 stars. 2 books, 3 stars. No books were 2 stars. And there was no 1-star books, but there was 1 D and F. And that was obviously the Waterstones Book Club pick. The genres, I read no thrillers, no contemporaries and no classics, and no non-fiction, although I was halfway through a non-fiction by the end of the month. I read 2 middle grades, 1 manga and graphic novel, and 6 fantasy and sci-fi. So you can tell I was on a bit of a fantasy sci-fi kick. The origin of the books that I read, 8 were physically owned by myself. 1 was borrowed, which was obviously the ebook. The format of the books that I read, 8 I physically read and 1 was that ebook. The binding of the physical books, 5 were hardbacks, 3 were paperbacks. The gender was 2 of the authors, 2 were male and 7 were female. Now here we get into my new statistics for 2022 that I'm taking. The longest book that I read was The Devil and the Darkwater by Stuart Turton. And this was, let me get back to my things. This was 548 pages, just beating out The Muse of Nightmares, which was also just over 500 pages. But yes, this was the longest book that I read at 548 pages in the month. And the shortest book that I read was the manga, Assassination Classroom Volume 3, and that was at 192 pages. The oldest book I read, so the one that was published long ago, wasn't that long ago, was Fire, which is book 2 in the Graceling series, and this was published in 2009. And the newest book that I read was the ebook of Song of the Forever Rains, which was published in 2021. The highest rated on Goodreads was Muse of Nightmares. This had a Goodreads score of 4.44 at the time of checking the information. And the lowest rated on Goodreads, ugh, I'm having trouble picking it up, was The Devil in the Darkwater. I can't believe it. Like, this had a star rating of 3.86 on Goodreads. An average rating of. I couldn't believe it. When I realised this was my lowest rated book, according to Goodreads, it did not make sense to me. But yeah. And the worst book I read was obviously my DNF, which was The Northwater. And I'll put the author on the screen for you because I haven't written it down in my book. But the best book was The Devil in the Darkwater, which is why it was so surprising to me being the lowest rated on Goodreads. I can't believe it. Does nobody like stories set at sea? Am I the only one? Yeah, I gave this book 5 stars. I love the story. I love the intrigue. I am waiting for the day to come when I can reread this again and see all those little clues that I realised by the time I got to the end of the book that were always there for me to see, but I didn't quite see them at the time. This is one of those kind of mystery thriller books that I know I could reread again and enjoy just as much. So I was quite shocked. Yeah, my favourite book of the month, my star of book of the month was lowest rated on Goodreads. I must be in the minority. But yeah, so was it. That was my February reading wrap up for you. Any of these books on your TBR list? I know that one of my lovely subscribers is either has The Devil in the Dark Water on their TBR or wants to put it on their TBR. So I hope that I have encouraged you to pick that up a lot sooner rather than later. But yeah, this was my reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!